This video contains a lot of actual truth. If you're uncomfortable with that, turn off the sound, close your eyes, and pretend this never happened. Now, this building was once described as having no particular historic significance. That astonishing statement was made under oath at a public hearing in New York City. This is the Ansonia, one of the most extravagant residential buildings ever constructed in New York. A Beaux-Arts palace with amenities that included its own power plant, a swimming pool, apartments so vast that a concert grand piano in the living room would look small.
Is it a hotel?
No, but I know what you mean. The term residential hotel used to mean an apartment building with hotel-like services and renting practices. You'd pay weekly or monthly, stay for as long as you wished. You'd have your room periodically cleaned by a maid. The room would be fully furnished. Normally, such a place would be occupied by working-class people, often referred to as wage earners. The Ansonia, on the other hand, was built as a luxury residential hotel. Wage earners couldn't afford it. Snobby old money people shunned it. So most of the tenants were from the Novarish stratum. Hotshot financiers, engineers, and also bohemians who had achieved a large measure of notoriety, like well-known composers, musicians, artists, actors, singers, that kind of crowd. It took about 4 years to build. William Earl Dodge Stokes bought the site and apparently participated in the design of the building. The designs kept changing even as the thing was being built. For some time, Stokes couldn't decide how tall the building was going to be. Like, the zoning laws weren't what they are today, so the finishing touch was like, okay, that's enough floors, let's put on the roof and give the thing a name. So Stokes named it after his grandfather.
Anson Green Phelps?
Best kind.
Was this a prestigious area back then?
Not really, no. Not by New York standards, anyway. This is Verdi Square, the heart of the Upper West Side.
Verdi Square?
Named after the Italian opera composer. That's his statue. And those 4 characters around the pedestal, they represent 4 different operas. The statues are marble. They put the whole thing together in 1907, 5 years after the Ansonia. The sculptor was Pasquale Civiletti. The project was crowd-funded by Italian immigrants and Italian Americans. And the man behind the project was Carlo Barsotti, the publisher of the first Italian-language daily newspaper in New York. A distant cousin of yours, I believe?
That is correct.
If you wish to know more about Verdi, you can go to my Patreon page and check the Music Lounge. I'm running a series there titled The Excellent Opera Story. Now, back to the Ansonia?
Go ahead.
Yes, so as I said earlier, the building featured its own power plant in the basement. Also, there were a swimming pool, a whole bunch of stores, an extensive heating, cooling, and air filtration system embedded in the structure. Oh, and the kitchens featured electric stoves, which looked something like this.
Was he born into money?
Who, Stokes? Well, sort of. After his father died, he contested the will, sued his brother, and got $1 million out of it. $1 million. With that, he became a developer, mostly in New York. When construction of the Ansonia started, he had just gotten married. I see you want to ask something.
Whom did he marry?
Her name was Rita D'Acosta. She was 19 years old, born in New York City to a Cuban-born steamship line executive and a Castilian mother, one of 7 siblings. The family moved in high society, which is always entertaining, but alas, they didn't have the kind of money that would guarantee long-term security for their children. So there seems to have been some pressure for the daughter to marry someone established, and Stokes, who was 43 years old at the time and reasonably wealthy, he certainly qualified. The marriage was short and miserable. They had 1 child, a son. Rumors circulated of abuse, never proven. According to gossip mongers, Rita wanted little to do with either her husband or the child, so the whole thing ended in divorce. The settlement granted Rita $2 million, which was unprecedented, and the custody of the child, though she later gave the child back to Stokes. She kept the money, though. Now, $2 million was a lot of money back then, but it all boils down to not how much it would be in today's money adjusted for inflation, but rather how much credit she could have with that kind of fortune in the bank.
Sort of.
Whatever it was, her subsequent life was all about luxury, artistic aspirations, and fame in certain circles. She divided her time mainly between New York, London, and Paris. In Paris, she would arrive at the Ritz with her hairdresser, masseuse, chauffeur, secretary, maid, and I quote, 40 Louis Vuitton trunks. She moved in elite artistic circles and counted among her acquaintance Rodin, Isabella Stewart Gardner, yes, the curator of the now famous museum in Boston, John Singer Sargent, Edgar Degas, Sarah Bernard, and Claude Debussy. Isabella once asked Sargent why Rita had never expressed herself artistically, and Sargent replied, "Why should she? She herself is art," which may or may not have been sarcastic. And then Rita married again. This time it was William Leidig, a wealthy former naval officer. That marriage ended in divorce as well. Later she planned to marry a priest, but church authorities refused to go along with it due to her divorce record. The priest she intended to marry died before anything could happen and left her his estate. Eventually, her lifestyle caught up with her, and she had to declare bankruptcy and sell a lot of her stuff, including, they say, a couple of paintings by Botticelli. She died at the Gotham Hotel on Fifth Avenue, known today as the Peninsula, at the age of 54. Now Stokes married again, secretly, because early a judge had told him he couldn't marry again so long as his ex was alive. His second wife was Helen Blanche Elwood, aged 24, he was 59. They did live at the Ansonia, and they had two kids, James Elwood Stokes, a future developer and philanthropist, and Helen Muriel Stokes, who lived a long and largely private life. 7 years later, Stokes filed for divorce. He accused Helen of multiple affairs, including one with her cousin and even one with his son from his marriage to Rita. She countered that his witnesses were lying sacks of shit and that he was serially unfaithful, which seems to have been true but has never been conclusively proven. And the worst part, he kept dozens of live chickens in their Ansonia apartment. Well, personally, I find it clever. Free-range organic chicken, at your apartment within reach. Chicken marsala, anyone? Anyway, Helen got $1 million in the settlement. Stokes bequeathed the Ansonia and some of his other assets to his son from his marriage to Rita, who sold the building in 1945, shortly after World War II. Architecturally, the Ansonia is Beaux-Arts through and through. Heavy ornaments, bold massing, brackets, scrolls, moldings, medallions, an exuberant building if there ever was one. I'm not going to show you any inside images here out of respect for residents' privacy, but I can tell you this. It's astounding. Some apartments have 14-foot ceilings. Once I saw a concert piano in the living room and it looked small. You could literally play basketball in there. Folks who resided at the Ansonia over the years, the list is very impressive. Sarah Bernard, Enrico Caruso, Fyodor Shalapin, Theodore Dreiser, Gustav Mahler, Tito Schipa, Teresa Stratas, Igor Stravinsky, Arturo Toscanini, Now, starting in the 1950s, the Ansonia changed hands many times. At one point, to make it profitable, supposedly, the owner installed a gay bathhouse and a cabaret in the basement. Then, in the 1970s, unable to raise rents, the owner announced plans to demolish the building and build a 40-story tower in its place, presumably because, well, we don't have enough ugly growth in this city. Residents then asked the Landmark Preservation Commission to designate the building as a city landmark. At a public hearing, the owner's lawyer testified that the structure lacked any particular historic significance. No particular historic significance.
Are you f***ing kidding me?
Believe it or not, that's what he said, verbatim. According to him, it would cost between $4 million and $5 million to repair the building, so it was easier and more practical to just tear it down. The residents gathered 25,000 signatures with support from Congresswoman Bella Abzug. The LPC designated the Ansonia a city landmark on March 15, 1972, protecting its exterior from demolition or alteration. Now, whatever Bella's other faults, this was an act of excellent taste.
But there was more trouble ahead?
Of course. Suddenly there were burglaries and holdups and whatnot inside the building. Do you know, in the 1970s, crime rates in New York skyrocketed. In yet another attempt to make more money, a swingers club was installed in the basement. Did it help? No, not really. Finally, in 1978, Ansonia Associates was formed. It was a group that purchased the building and started renovations. Further lawsuits and adventures followed. In the 1980s, Verdi Square became a hub for drug activity. It was sinister and paradoxically, it continued to be beautiful. In 1992, the owners received permission from the city's bureaucracies to convert most of the apartments into condos.
How much?
Oh, millions of dollars, naturally.
What is that?
Yes, we should also mention the two subway station houses. The original dates back to 1905. The station itself opened a year after the Ansonia was completed and 3 years before the Verdi Monument went up. It later made an appearance in that, celebrated movie that many people still love because it lets the audience gratify original sin without any moral discomfort, since we're clearly rooting for the good guys in that one. As for the other one, which was, they say, inspired by the Crystal Palace in London, which was destroyed not by the Luftwaffe, as many people think, but by a small office fire that started and then spread through the rest of the building in the year of our Lord 1936, 3 years before the Blitz. In order to build this new station house, they had to knock down a pavilion that no one remembers anymore. It seems to have hosted a reasonably popular restaurant that served reasonably good food and wine. The new station house went up in 2002, 98 years after the original one. Anyway, to me, the Ansonia is eye candy. I'm an artist specializing in cityscapes, and I've painted the place numerous times, and each time it's a joy. And let me tell you, it doesn't take much to get people to take notice. Every time I set up my easel on that corner, 72nd and Amsterdam, people stop. They've walked past it for years without actually seeing it, but they look again and they say, oh wow, it's really beautiful.
I'm Amanda Barsotti, a fictional character. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental.
Please subscribe to my channel. Please visit my site. Consider purchasing books, paintings, and prints. And visit my Patreon page. It's a lot of fun as well. I'm Ricky Vernio coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. and I'll see you soon.